Welcome in, everybody, to the Power Option Podcast. It's out here running the damn ball from east to west. Last year we started west-east, but we've been changing it back. We're going back to the original. It is 2025. It is college football season. Garrett, how the fuck are you?
Man, I'm ready, dude. Here's the thing. I say I'm ready. I wasn't quite ready for the games to kick off this weekend. I was ready for games to be coming, but I always think about it at Labor Day weekend, so I wasn't quite ready for it to be right now.
Yeah, I called you and like, are we getting ready for it? And you're like, oh yeah, we got games. Like week 0 is here, which also is not called week 0 pretty unanimously at this point. I rarely hear week 0 anymore.
Yeah, some people still kind of do, but not everybody. I don't know.
It's fine.
It's weird.
That's just me.
Yeah.
The change is scary. Who wants it?
You agreed.
It's ridiculous.
Agreed.
Anyway, so your thoughts. Give me just some general thoughts. The playoff changes this year. This year we have straight seeding. We can probably bitch about that a little less this year. I say that, but of course it'll be the same. But what are your thoughts on new format? How you feeling about the season? All the stuff.
I'm fine with it. I think in a situation like that, it makes it so that one of the top two teams doesn't kind of get screwed by having to play somebody really good game one. That really good team that would have gotten the first round, that would have been the 6th seed or 7th seed or whatever, the 5th seed. That team will now be the 2nd seed or 3rd seed, so it means you don't have to play them right away. So that balances everything out a little bit. So I'm fine with it. I liked the fact that you could be the Group of 5 champion and steal yourself a bye. Get yourself a bye stolen. I mean, I liked that, but that's not the hill I want to die on. I'm okay with you just saying, hey, the top 4 teams in the country should all get buys.
Yeah. I'm with you. Like the buys that we had last year. I was about to say Arizona State. They are not obviously a G5, but it kind of felt like they were fitting a spot. Big 12 feels kind of like the in between of all things at this point. And so just having the mix up there where it's like, oh, Arizona State's got a chance. They're still going to get mollywopped at some point, but at least they have some breathing room, which was interesting. But I would rather not have that if there's a chance there'll be a little bit less sort of like squawk boxes saying how terrible this is and, oh, they don't deserve it and blah, blah, blah. At least this way we can kind of go back to the top 25 going, okay, if Tulane is the 10th best team in the nation come the end of the season, we can just let that be what it is. And that I'm preferable to. So I think that'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's always a challenge because you just know pretty much no matter what a Group of 5 team does during their schedule, they could go undefeated and get one top 25 win because that's all they're going to get on their schedule, maybe 2. Maybe 1 top 10 win and 3 top 25 wins. There's no way they're going to get that bye. They're just going to be always playing a first round game at best at home. Yeah. But on the other hand, there absolutely could be a situation where they don't get it. They don't have an opportunity to play at all. And now they're at least going to get in the tournament. And so I try to just take the good with the bad, especially as the game keeps changing. It's going to get to the point where no matter what, you're only really going to have 1 or 2 Group of 5s that are going to have the talent to be deserving to play for the World Championship, and that's okay.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we can, even if we go back, there's not that many. I was going to go back in time to try to think about how many teams that would have been in similar scenarios would really legitimately make it through a first round or deserve to be there, and be able to do that. I think 08 Utah.
That undefeated Utah team that beat Alabama, maybe could have. I mean, it would have been a challenge for them to have a prepared, really good football team, 2 weeks in a row.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It was a big ask.
You really have to be. Yeah, you're really gonna have to be one of the top 6 teams in the country I think, to win a national championship. But the funny thing about that is it means you're going to eventually get a Cinderella run at some point where the 11th ranked team comes through and beats a couple people that they're not supposed to beat, and it becomes interesting. But in college football, generally, that team ends up playing the best team in the world in the championship game, and they lose by 2.5 touchdowns. But this is going to be like 16 versus 1 in March Madness. It's going to be one of those things that we'll just keep an eye out for and be like, ooh, is this the year that the 12 seed wins 3 games?
Right.
So that's fun.
Yeah, totally. And that's, I mean, and honestly, and just based on the nature of this sport and how college is done, like the chances are like few and far between. Once in a lifetime type team like 2008 Utah, about to go into the, formerly the Pac-10 at the time, like really making strong, big moves to be able to get it done. But, who's to say that other teams like now, the Mountain West is about to get boosted this next year, I believe, or did it happen this year when Mountain West got their new teams?
No, it's next year.
Next year.
Next year is
So,
when the Mountain West.
Anyways, so there's a mixing up of conferences at this point that kind of changes things. Also, I do think, the ability for players to both transfer and get paid, depending on the particular place, there could be in our future a Cinderella just because they were like, we're going to build a Calipari like team of just guys that like they have no business being in this city at this school playing this game, but we just got it. We just said we can get you to the league, we can get you paid, we can beat some big schools, and then all that's going to come together, and they'll go, okay, yeah, well,
we're going to see if that's true or not because Texas Tech did just that.
It's very true.
Texas Tech,
and they're basically
is that team
anyways.
right now.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Yeah, function. I mean, they're going to be the lowest like. Obviously, it's going to be hard to, I think, truly predict which team is coming out of the Big 12 right now, right? But the Big 12 very likely is it has a good possibility of getting 2 teams in the playoff.
Yeah.
Not a great one, but a good possibility of getting 2 teams in the playoff.
Yeah, if they really do it. Yeah, if they really like sit down and have some teams that can really like go through the middle of it, but they're going to beat each other up.
You're right, but let's just say that the Texas Tech team is the second team, right? They've got losses, but they lose in the conference championship game, but they're still ranked high enough because they've got some big wins, what have you. Mm-hmm. They only lost twice. They only lost 2, and there's the champion of the Big 12's only lost once, right? That Texas Tech team could be the exact kind of team you're talking about. An 11 or 12 seed, they play a road game against a Big 10 or against that one of those mid-tier Big 10 or SEC teams, and they win. And that roster, like they come together late, and maybe they just lose a close game to a team that's a little bit better, and that team loses, but they find out that everybody's really good. Like, any of that's in play, and I think that's where you're going to see something like this is your second team out of the ACC or your second team out of the Big Ten, your SMUs, like, people wouldn't feel that way if it's Miami, but it could still be Miami. Yeah. It might be Georgia Tech, maybe.
Right.
That's kind of something like that, something like that. So, but anyway, I think the playoff is in general sense interesting. And I think that I really have a lot of excitement thinking about. I'm perfectly okay with just knowing, hey, you're going to get some 2-loss teams. Eventually, a 2-loss team is going to win a national championship. I'm fine with all that because I'm like, man, that the actual to figure out who's going to make the playoff, even though it's going to be maddening at sometimes because some undeserved SEC team is going to be like, well, yeah, we beat one ranked SEC team and then lost to Kentucky or whatever, and we're going to have to think they're serious or they made a late run, annoying. Whatever. But even that being the case, once the playoff starts, you're still going to be separating the men from the boys in general.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we'll find out pretty quick, which is nice. It's nice that we have rounds to find that out as well.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, I think that's a good segue for this sort of tier list exercise that we want to go through. I'll let you explain.
Yeah, so I was driving to work and I was thinking, you and I are gamers, and I don't know that we've talked about it here, but we're specifically fighting game players. And there's nothing a fighting game player likes more than a tier list.
True.
Like a tier list is like what we go by, what we live by. and it's all nobody ever has real consensus, and nobody ever can agree. But it's a great starting point to get an understanding of what we think. So I thought, you know what? I think the way that we should break down teams, and we might stretch this across the season and reevaluate as we go, but I think the best way to break down the top 25 is to put them in tiers of quality. We put them in tiers of how good we think that they're going to be based on what we see them in here. And so the tiers that I've identified is the national championship tier, the team that you feel comfortable is going to be a semifinalist or better. One of the teams that really should be competing for the national championship.
Yeah.
You got playoff teams that should be right there in the playoff mix. They may not be the playoff because just things are going to happen, but the kind of team that you expect to be in the running for the playoff. Then you're going to have your just outside of the playoff teams that are not necessarily overrated, but they're not quite that level. They've got a big enough flaws that they'll be the South Carolina or Alabama of last year.
Right.
And then you got the overrated category, teams that are in the top 25 that don't really have any business being up there. They aren't going to end that way. And then also I just wanted to have a spot where we can just talk about the teams, the G5 teams that aren't in the top 25 that we think might be competitive for the playoff spot.
Yeah. I think it's a good list.
So
I think it's a good way to break it down of like sort of an A to F type of situation.
Yeah, I like it. If I get energy enough, I'll use the tier list site, and we'll put together our tier list on there, and then we'll post it on the website so people can see it.
Yeah.
And we can adjust it week in and week out. That would be kind of fun. So I figured we'd go down the rankings of the top 25, and then we'll talk about where our team is and any notes that we want to say about them.
Yeah.
Actually, here's a question. Do you want to go top down, or do you want to go 25 up?
I was about to ask the exact same thing. I say we go 25 to 1.
All right, let's do it. Let's go 25 up. That's good. We'll add suspense to it. All right, well, we're starting with the Boise State Broncos.
I'm putting them. It's hard. 25 is so, it's right there. I'm sure there was 3 other teams that we were looking before, and BYU and Utah both got bids to get in, and they just barely missed out. So 25 is hard to say that there's like a problem here, but I think Boise's probably overrated. It's not that I don't think that they're going to be good. I think that they're very likely the Mountain West champion at the end of the year. But to lose a guy like Ashton Genty, where your whole team basically just lived on his legs, to do that and then to return to something even close. I don't think that they're playoff type of guys, but to even just to stay consistently in the top 25 throughout the course of the year, whether they pop out and pop back in, I think it's a tall order for Boise State, especially after the team that they were. It feels like Auburn losing Cam Newton, or something in that thing where you just had one guy doing crazy stuff. So it's hard for me to put them anywhere else but overrated.
All right, I have them as a playoff team. I think that they're going to be the best group of 5. I think that Madsen at quarterback returning, Genty is amazing. He probably should have won the Heisman Trophy, to be really honest.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, to be really honest on it. However, that Boise team, one of the things about having a guy like this change the way that Boise team played, as you have to when you have a guy at that talent.
Right.
But I still think that the Boise team is going to be the most advanced offensive machine in the G5, because they almost always are. That Madsen returning means he's going to run the offense, and that Boise State offense is almost plug and play at quarterback. Every other position group except for the running back room is equally as talented. I think they're better than everybody on their schedule except for Notre Dame. And so I think that's why they're going to be in the playoff conversation.
Yeah,
I don't think it's unfair to say, hey, without Ashton Genty, they won't make it there. That's not unfair.
Yeah, my only thing is I think out of the G5s, I can from the technical standpoint of like what their offense is going to be able to do, I can agree with you there, and that's why I do think that they go through the Mountain West, they get another Mountain West championship. However, if they lose one, and that's the case for all G5s, of course. But again, you lost a guy who changed the nature of how you thought about football for a full year, and to reload, to get yourself into a place where you feel confident in maybe 5 guys that are even a tenth of as good as Genty was, I feel like it's going to be tough. So, and the Mountain West is, I don't have anybody. I think you're right. There's nobody else on their schedule other than Notre Dame that they're probably worse than. But there's a couple of games here that it gets shaky, and that's where I think the loss of such a one type of product is going to really hurt potentially. Like going up to they have to go to Logan.
If they had to play San Jose State, which I think is the second best team, probably in the Mountain West this year, they had to play San Jose State. UNLV is going to be very good as well. I would maybe feel that way, but they get UNLV at home.
Yeah, that's true.
The road games in conference are Air Force, Nevada, San Diego State, and Utah State, all teams that they should absolutely dominate. UNLV is the only game they're going to have at home in conference that they got to worry about. App State is probably not going to be close to as good as them, but you never know. App State will be gamey, right? At Notre Dame, as long as they don't get blown out by Notre Dame, they could still lose to the Notre Dame game and a game against UNLV and win the conference and maybe still make the playoff spot, because the other G5 teams we're going to talk about, at least on my list, all have their own trap doors that they got to worry about.
Yeah, and they're probably not going to play as good of opponents probably either.
Yeah, but they are on a hair's edge. But Boise State, I 100% agree. Boise State is on a hair's edge between being the playoff team and losing 3 games, right, because maybe the offense isn't that good without them, and having that rushing attack, losing that, they weren't as prepared to deal with that as possible. It's possible.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, I'm going to stick to my guns on the overrated, but I see what you're saying.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. All right, at 24, we have Tennessee Volunteers.
1,000% overrated. And this team is going to, at the end of the season, they're going to be like, oh, why couldn't we get in the playoff? We had to play a great schedule. Like, oh, we went to Georgia and got our asses kicked. We went to Alabama and got our asses kicked. Then we went to Oklahoma and got our asses kicked. It's just like, and what'll happen is they'll get their asses kicked in Georgia. They have Georgia at home. They'll get their asses kicked. They go to Alabama. They'll get their asses kicked. And then they'll probably, and it sucks that these are late in the season because that'll bring this argument around even more, but they'll beat Oklahoma and they'll beat Florida, and then they'll be like, well, I mean, come on. Like, what are we doing? Right. Even though none of the wins will look good, they lost their quarterback, who I also wasn't super hype on. Nico wasn't super hyped on. Anyway, so it's like I just don't. I got zero confidence in Tennessee. I don't want to hate this new coach, or not new coach, but they're Tennessee's current coach. But man, it just I don't see it happening.
Look. Aguiar, who's the replacement quarterback, is fine. Actually, because he's probably a little bit more accurate, and they're going to throw the ball a little shorter, might actually be a better quarterback option. The defensive talent is going to be really good. That wide receiver room that they have, there's no real standouts, which is going to be the real problem that they've got. Mm-hmm, yeah. But yeah, they'll win 8 games, and they'll be loud about whether or not they can be in the playoff, and they won't. They're also in my overrated category.
Cool, good.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the Red Raiders of Texas Tech at 23.
I don't know. Honestly, I kind of don't. I think where I have to place them at this point is overrated, but it's not. I just don't have any. I don't have any information. Right. This feels like they're trying to be Texas A&M, where they just go and they're like, we got all the money together to do this thing. Texas Tech softball just did it with one of the best softball players in the country. They paid a boatload of money for her, and she got not just her, but her being on the team made it so that at least contributed to them getting I think they came in second in the national championship, something like that. But so Texas Tech is like, we're about that money. We got the oil guys, we got the rancher guy, we got all that money. We're here for it. I want to believe it. I'd love to be in a world where Texas Tech was good. Watching Mahomes back there, watching Crabtree back in the day. I'm a fan of Texas Tech being good. But first of all, I don't know if Texas Tech can even do that as a school, regardless of the players that they have. And then the second piece is this is going to be one of those sort of, I'm going to say experiments, but one of those sort of things where it's like we kind of haven't seen, even in this new era of money for players and transfers, I don't think we've seen a team that's been built like this. And I've definitely not seen a team that's been built like this that's won effectively. Texas A&M is basically my only, the only one that I can say for sure was just money. And to try to fill the gaps of coaching and whatever else you need to fill to try to get into the playoff. So I don't know if it works yet. I would be okay with it, but I just I can't put them anywhere else other than overrated until I see more.
Yeah, I had a lot of challenge about where I wanted to put him because I generally feel the same way that you do, except I put him on the playoff outside looking in. One, because they're in the Big 12.
True.
And
that could potentially pay dividends.
Right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, just has a possibility of just the way things that break out. And two, with the transfers and their returning, 21 of 22 players are returning starters. Not necessarily returning starters at Texas Tech, but returning starters from last year.
Yeah.
That's crazy. If that group can get it together, then they're going to be really good.
Yeah. And
they're going to be really good. The problem is, will they get it together fast enough? Will they have it together fast enough versus Oregon State? Will they have it fast enough at Utah? They may not.
I mean,
and those games will potentially be a problem. But if they do have it together by then, they got to go to Arizona State, which will be interesting, and we'll talk about them as they come up. They got to go to Kansas State. Their toughest games, especially now that BYU's quarterback situation is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Their biggest games are on the road, right? But I think that they'll win. They'll beat somebody that we'll be surprised they'll beat, and they'll lose to somebody they probably shouldn't lose, and they'll be right at the cusp, but they won't make the conference championship game. And in the Big 12, if you don't do that, you're not gonna make the play.
Right. Yeah. No, I think from a schedule, the schedule is tough. I don't to go into Rice Eccles. It's going to be. This is going to be. You're a bunch of starters. You hope that experience helps you, but it's going to be rocking. It's going to be rocking in Salt Lake City that night, and then have to go to Manhattan and to come to Tempe. It's
right.
And in Arizona, if Arizona State is, and I've said this before on the podcast, Arizona sports fans are weird. But they do really get behind. They really bandwagon hard for Arizona teams that are good. Like, they really come out for that. And so I think if Arizona State's ranked still by the time Texas Tech comes to Tempe, that's going to be tough. But if you lose to a potentially ranked Utah, a ranked Arizona State, and a ranked Kansas State, like that is definitely in your tier list. I don't.
Yep.
It's a lot for them to do, and so I'm going to say it over. You said you're going outside of the playoff looking in?
Yeah, I had play out outside looking in. They could lose 2 of those games, be right there at the edge of playing in the Big 12 championship game, not quite make it, and so then they're going to end the season at 17 or something. Fine. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Staying in the Big 12, let's go to Iowa State at 22.
I just overrated everybody up until this point, and I'm going to believe in Iowa State, and I think that they can get the playoff done. I think that they can do that. I think maybe they go in as 12 or something. But their Big 12 schedule is not terrible. The only ranked opponent that they have to play the Emerald Isle, which we'll talk about. So that's going to be some holy thing. But that's first game of the season, and against the ranked opponent. They basically are 6s if you lose to K-State. You don't want to, but you lose to K-State, it's fine. It's more of a problem for the Big 12 championship than it is from a ranking standpoint, I think. But then they have a run. They got Iowa at home for the Cy-Hawk, which doesn't necessarily matter for them, but that's something that they could contribute a loss from. Probably not though. Then the rest of their Big 12 schedule is not that bad. They go Arizona, Cincy, Colorado, BYU, and then at that point then they go to they have to play Arizona State, but they're getting Arizona State at home. So I think it's a schedule that they can do. I like what's going on out there. I really like it, and so I'm gonna put them in my playoff bound sit tier for now. I think that they can get it done.
Yeah, that's where I am too. They could lose to Kansas State first game of the season, beat everybody else, and even lose to Arizona State, and still maybe make the playoff.
Agreed.
Their quarterback Beck is good. He might be the best quarterback in the Big 12. The defense will be good because the defense is always good. And the schedule. I mean, you got that game. You got the Iowa State game. Iowa might actually be really good. But yeah, like you said, the home games work out. Your conference road games are all of your road games. Period are all teams you're better than. And so anytime you're in that situation and you're in the top 25, you got to feel like you're in a good shot to get to the playoff.
Yeah.
And they are definitely in consideration for at least the second best team in the Big 12 and playing in the conference championship game. So yeah, that's also I think a playoff gimme as well.
Yeah, totally.
All right, now we go to your favorite team, Ole Miss, the Rebs.
Okay, now what I want to do to Lane Kiffin's bitch ass is put him in overrated because I just think in general he's just an overrated human being. I don't think he's that good. I don't think even with Jackson Dart, Ole Miss was pretty average. Whatever. Okay, but damn it. I think I need to put Ole Miss I'm going to put them outside looking. I think that he's shown enough, old Kiffin's bitch ass, to make me think that he can win enough throughout this schedule to be able to either be right there touching or a pretty definitive thing. Now he's got to run. Goes to Georgia, goes to Oklahoma, has South Carolina at home, all ranked. Then he's got Florida at home, ranked. Ends the season with the Egg Bowl. So that's a run. And if they only lose to Georgia, then it's like, how can you not put them in? I don't think I think that they're going to lose to at least two of those four teams. And they have LSU 2 weeks before Georgia. So I would be hard pressed to think that they don't get three losses, but I'm confident enough in Lane at this point that he could sneak one around those guys to be able to only lose to LSU and Georgia. And if that happens, then they're going to be in the very, very much in the conversation of like, we're the best. Look at our schedule. Look at what we had to do 4 weeks in a row. You got to put us in. Everybody else is trash. You got to do it. So as sad as it makes me, I got to put them in the playoff looking in. I don't think they can do it because I don't want them to, but I think I got to give them some dues.
Well, that's really funny because I have them in the overrated category. Though they have talent everywhere, I think that the defense is not going to be quite as good and the offense is not going to be quite as good. And that's a combination that means of those games that you mentioned, you lose 3 of them. And, oh, by the way, they have Tulane at home kind of early.
Ooh,
don't fall asleep. Don't fall asleep at Tulane at home. Yeah, they're better than Tulane for sure, but no. Don't think that that's a check that game off. Tulane at home because Tulane might be real good. So I just think the schedule. I think they're not better, and the schedule is as hard or harder. And so yeah, I don't see it.
You know what? I love it. I'm putting him in overrated. Fuck his bitch ass. I'm changing.
Yeah.
You could easily converted me 100%.
Nice. All right, let's go to Indiana at 20.
Signetti has shown, he wins. And so I think it's going to be tough to do it the way that he did it before. But their Big 12 schedule is not terrible. I think I got to put them in the outside of the playoff looking in category. I think they cruise through a lot of this. I think that they have a chance to beat Illinois. They've got Illinois at home, and if they beat Illinois, that propels them up the top 25. Oregon, they have to go to. I think they lose. They got to go to Penn State. They probably lose both of those. But if those are your only losses, that's a hell of a schedule. So I think they could. I think because of how the rest of the Big Ten and the SEC will shake out, that they probably get booted, just because somebody else will say that they've had better, But I think Indiana is going to be good. I hope that they are, like Signetti, like what's going on. But I don't I think they'll just get shaken out of the playoff. Not to say that they couldn't play in it, but I think it'll just like the dice just won't roll their way.
Yeah, so as sad as this makes me, I have Indiana in the overrated category.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Because here's the thing. If they played this schedule last year, they wouldn't have made the playoff, right? I mean, that's just the bottom line, right? And their team is, I mean, a lot of defensive starters stayed, and their defense was strong. I think Mendoza at quarterback, he came from Cal, is going to be fine. I don't think he's as good as Rourke. But the problem is they're not that much better than they were last year, and their schedule is much more difficult. And so I think they're, an 8-4 team. And I think that's great. I think that they should be super excited about that. But they're not. They're I don't even think they're going to be in the conversation for the playoff spot after they lose to Illinois. That's that word. I think there's a good chance that they lose to Illinois, Iowa, Oregon back to back to back.
Oh, well.
And unfortunately, now here's the thing. I want to be wrong more than you understand.
I get it.
love
I get
Cignetti.
it. Yeah.
He is my favorite. I want this team to absolutely light Iowa up and beat Illinois close and put Arizona to the sword. I just don't feel confident that that's going to happen.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised to hear the take. I think
Yep.
I think they're better than that. I think Cignetti is probably better. I don't know if
here's the
team
thing.
in total, but I think he's shown enough at this point that I think he can kind of juice guys in a way that will propel them.
No, listen, I'm serious. I want to be wrong so bad. I want him to be like, look, all I do is win, and here we go again. If that happens, I will build a statue outside of my front porch. I'll get his picture or something and put it outside. If that man takes this team to the playoffs,
right.
That would be my favorite thing that's maybe ever happened in college football.
Yeah.
I just don't see it.
Yeah, no, I get it.
All right. The Aggies of Texas A&M at 19.
I like Mike, whatever his last name is. What's
Elko.
their coach? Elko. I like Elko. I like the hire. I think it's cool that they got a hometown boy in the very similar way to Arizona State. I hope for good things for him, but I think we don't have this tier list. We don't have this section of the tier list. We don't need to add it. But I almost wish that there was an in between of outside looking in and overrated, because I don't know if them being at 19 is fine with me. But I just don't think that they're going to be able to put everything they need to put together to even be in the conversation of the playoff. I don't think come November you and I are talking and we're like, well, Texas A&M's right there. Like, I just don't see it. Like, they have Florida. They got to play Notre Dame. They got to play Florida. Both Notre Dame away and Florida at home. And then you end it with South Carolina. Who knows? I think South Carolina. I don't know if I believe in South Carolina either yet, but South Carolina and Texas. And LSU. And so it's like that just is a SEC type of schedule that Texas A&M hasn't proven to me yet that they can handle. So I want to put them higher. I want to put them in the looking in, but I don't foresee us going Texas A&M should be in the conversation come November.
Yeah, I mean, I have them on the outside looking in, but I think you're right. This is the way I thought of outside looking in. I think the outside looking in is really the bridge between playoff and overrated, in that like they are not in a position to compete for a playoff spot. They're just not going to be in that conversation, but they won't be so far away. Like, would it shock me if they beat Notre Dame or they beat LSU or they beat South Carolina or Texas, beat one of them, maybe two of them, and then still lose 3 games that they shouldn't win? I absolutely wouldn't be surprised if they do that, because like you, I also think that Elko is great. I think the defense will be really good. The running back room will be really good. I don't know if Marcellus Reed is good enough at quarterback, but if he's dynamic and he can pass the ball and he can make plays with his feet, then they're going to surprise people. And so it's one of those, like, I got to keep a real strong eye on. That's where I put them why I put them in the outside looking in playoff spot.
That's okay. That I like that because I think that's. I'm happy you said it like that because that helped. I hadn't really like thoroughly defined, I guess, our tier list in my mind. But I think that's a good definer. What I was thinking about outside looking in is that we're having the conversation of whether they should be in. But I agree with you in that maybe it's more like, yeah, I mean, they are who we thought they were. Like, and if Texas A&M ends
some point in the season, they're going to be part of the conversation. Like at some point in the season, you're going to look at their overall plan. You're going to go, oh man, they were just this game win away. Like they're not in the playoff conversation, but man, if this one thing had happened, or this thing would have happened, they would have been in the conversation. Unlike what I think about Tennessee, where it's like, no, I watched you lose to the only good teams on your schedule. I'm not interested in you at all.
Yes. Okay. Cool. I think based on now that I've recalibrated, I agree with you. I'm going to bump them up. I'm going to put them outside of the playoff. I think that they'll be. I wouldn't be shocked to see them ranked at the end of the year. And doing something fine, totally.
Yes, exactly. I think that's a perfect spot for them. Yep. Oklahoma, the Sooners.
Oh, I'll let you go first.
Okay. So they're in my playoff outside looking in because they might have a top 3 defense. They might have one of the best defenses in the country.
Yeah.
And Mateer at quarterback might be really good. I don't know, and I don't know that they have enough offensive weapons around that. But Venables is good. The defense will be hot. They'll be doing a lot of pressure. They're really talented. It's going to look good. I don't know if the offense is going to quite catch up, and that's the reason that I have them just outside there. But I think that they're going to be good. I think that we're going to be surprised when we get to the end of the season that they're closer to being a playoff team than their schedule is a nightmare.
It's crazy.
Texas,
it's
South
insane.
Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, then a Missouri and LSU. Right? And they've got Auburn. They have pretty much all. They only avoided Georgia, but because they didn't play Georgia, they got to play Michigan. So they have the best teams in the conference. They got to play everybody. And so I think that that's just going to be difficult. Even if Ole Miss is overrated and Tennessee is overrated and South Carolina is maybe a little overrated, they're all still good. They're all on the same level as Oklahoma. So they could still win a bunch of those and lose a close game to those. And we will go, they're not a playoff team, but man, they're right there. You know?
Yeah. I feel like I agree. I agree with a lot of that. I have this bias that I feel like I can blame on you at this point towards Oklahoma. Like Bob Stoops just made me hate Oklahoma. So it doesn't matter what goodness they put into the world. I just assume that they're trying to just touch my butthole or something, just doing some evil nonsense.
Yeah,
right?
It's just I 1,000,000% get it.
Yeah. So I'm happy that I let you go first because you've been able to quell yours better than me. And so in that thought, I think I agree with everything that you had to say, especially when it comes to the schedule. It's they're just not. I just don't think Oklahoma, any version of this Oklahoma team is capable of going through that gauntlet of a schedule and getting enough things right to be able to get into the playoff. But I could see them. I feel almost exactly about them as I feel like Texas A&M. I think that they probably, if they end the season 18th, I'll go, oh yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
That all makes sense. And they do it 18th on 3 losses or something, or they do it, they're 21st on 3 losses, whatever it is. I could see that happening. I kind of have a blank spot also for this whole new coaching staff since, it's obviously been a couple years since USC's head coach, who I can't think of his name, since he left Oklahoma. That I've kind of
Lincoln Riley.
Yeah. So I've kind of put I don't think about Oklahoma in the same way in a lot of cases, even though they deserve it. So, anyways, I think Oklahoma's a perfectly fine team. They have a gauntlet of schedule, but they've got games on there that they can win. If they do win, everybody will go, "Oh, that's great. That's great that you did that." And so, I think that they can be outside of the playoff. I think I'll be perfectly fine if they. I would be shocked if they end the season, just by getting blasted all year. But I expect them to get some wins. So I'm with you. I'm gonna go outside the playoff.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's where I'm at. All right. Next up, back to the Big 12, Kansas State, the Wildcats, one of the many.
I got to put them. I might. I might believe in Iowa State more, just because of how the Big 12 maybe shakes out. But I do think Kansas State and Iowa State, a lot of Big 12, well, basically mostly these two, but still Big 12, them and Arizona State, it's like they could figure it out. They could figure out a situation where they win the Big 12, and then you're playing in the playoffs. So I think Kansas State has as good of a shot to do that as Iowa State does. And they play themselves each other so early that a loss to them, as long as either of them, neither of them goes 3 losses, I think that's playoff bound. So I'm comfortable saying Kansas State gets in just because of Big 12 nonsense, to say the least.
Yeah, look, I also have Kansas State in my playoff. I've got them right there with Iowa State. I think you've got this kind of round robin-y situation where somebody's got to be one of the second best team in the Big 12, and it's hard for me to pick between whether it's going to be Arizona State, Kansas State, or Iowa State in being first or second. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think that obviously a lot of it hinges on Avery Johnson. If Avery Johnson takes a step up, then Kansas State is the best team in the Big 12. If Avery Johnson is a little bit better, he's just got to be a little bit better, and the rest of the team is good or better, then they are probably gonna compete for playing in the conference championship game and maybe get in a playoff. But if Avery Johnson takes a step, then they absolutely can be what Arizona State was last year. I have a lot of faith in the coaching staff. I have a lot of faith in the program. I just don't know if Avery Johnson can get to that dude status or not, and that's what it all hinges on for me.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I mean, luckily for him, their schedule is not exactly grueling. Obviously, he's got to play on the Emerald Isle, which is going to be its own experience. But so early in the season is going to be fine. But then, they're going to come. I'll probably watch them when they come to Tucson to play Arizona. I assume they just absolutely mollywop Arizona. I'm gonna get a $2 ticket and be on the 50-yard line. It's gonna be great. Then it's UCF, Baylor, TCU, Kansas. Like, all of that feels winnable. Definitely, you got to deal with Texas Tech, and if they're a monster, that's a problem. But maybe that helps you. I don't think that they will be. And then Okie State, you got to go to Utah at the end of the year, which is not Utah might do the thing where they just have developed by that point where they're like, they're just beating their pants off of people. So that's going to be tough, right? Eccles is going to be tough. And then you end the season on Colorado. So yeah, I mean, this is a very doable. I can get to the Big 12 championship schedule alone. And then if you got a quarterback that decides he wants to do some stuff, then they're rolling.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this, I think, as far as I'm concerned, is I'm saying if I believe they're good, then I believe they're better than all of the rest of the teams on their schedule.
Yeah.
And considering they're going to play functionally all of the best teams in the conference, then that means they have to be a playoff team. They have to be.
Yeah, that's it.
They just have to be a good playoff team. Like, going to Baylor, no joke. Like you said, going to Utah, no joke.
Yeah.
Kansas, if Kansas decides to have a good season, which you just never know, but it's a rivalry game on the road, right?
Yeah.
It's in play. TCU shouldn't be terrible.
Right.
UCF shouldn't be terrible. They have to play Army. That's no joke either, even if it's at home. Shit, playing North Dakota ain't a joke. Like, their schedule is about as good a schedule as a team from the Big 12 that doesn't have like a marquee SEC game has. And so if they can do that, and they're building themselves up right, they're going to play a physical game in Ireland, but early they're going to play a physical game against Army. They're going to have UCF at home finally. They're going to go to Baylor. That's no joke. Like, it's built correctly,
right,
to where I think that if they do what they're supposed to do, they'll be 8 or 9 at the end of the year.
Yeah, totally.
All right, let's go to SMU, the ACC darlings for last year.
I'll let you go first on this one. I need some time to do it.
All right.
I think.
All right, I have SMU in the playoff tier because almost the same as the Big 12, there's going to be a second team from the ACC, right? I think, spoiler alert, that Clemson is the best team in the ACC.
Yep.
But after that, you're talking about Miami and you're talking about SMU. That's basically what we're talking about here, right? So I just have them in the playoff conversation because they're going to be right there. They're about as good as last year. The schedule's not going to be as kind, but assume. I mean, this is going to be their second real year in the big time, and so I think that they're going to be up to the task, and it might not look quite the same, but you don't have to be the second best team in the world to be the second best team in the ACC, and that's all you really need to do, and not lose a dumb game. Don't lose at Wake or don't lose at Cal, and yeah, you can lose to Clemson and beat Miami. You could even lose to Clemson or lose a close game to Miami and play in the conference championship game and sneak your way in because you blew out everybody else. And they have the kind of offense, if Jennings is improving like he's supposed to do that. So I think that they are absolutely competing. Now, would I be shocked if they lose to Clemson and to Miami and they don't get the playoffs and lose to Louisville even? Yeah, but I think absolutely they are what I would think Indiana would be if Indiana had the quarterback piece. Even with a little bit of fall off.
Yeah,
that's a good kind of where they are.
That's a good comparison. Yes, I agree with that because Jennings. I mean, the fact that they have Jennings and their running back, who I just lost his name, Rashard Smith, both of them coming back.
Yeah.
That's huge. And I thought, Jennings wasn't going to win a national championship, but going through the ACC, like he had a bunch of times throughout last year that I was like, oh damn, like SMU's the real deal, Holyfield.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, he really shit the bed against Penn State. Like he really did not have his shit together in the biggest stage, right? And quite frankly, they should have beat Clemson, and they didn't. And those things can still happen, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to have an opportunity to play in the playoff.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just like there's, we're going to get to some more ACC teams, obviously, but I think that they have a more repeatable situation because their offense is back. More or less.
Yeah.
And so it's like, the core pieces, and like that gives you a lot of opportunity, especially in the ACC, where I feel like the ACC beats up on itself, but in foolish ways. So hopefully that, that experience that they have, makes it so that they don't get foolish, versus like Miami, and we'll get to Miami, but where it's like you're not reloading such a crazy thing. So yeah, I agree with you. I think SMU it's very likely, it's very possible for them to get out of the ACC, whether as the second team out of the ACC or as conference champions, and get it done.
Sure.
Like based on what they have, they can definitely get it done. So I'll agree with you. I'm putting them in the playoff bound tier.
Yeah. All right, that's good. All right, we go to the Florida Gators at 15.
I'm going to put Florida for now in the outside looking in. A lot because similarly to Oklahoma, they have a pretty tough schedule. Like they go to LSU, they go to Miami, they have Texas at home, which helps, but still Texas at home. And then you got to go to Kyle Field to play A&M. You have to go to Mississippi to play Ole Miss, and then you have Tennessee, who I think they'll win at the end. But and they have Georgia at home. So that's just like, I was talking shit earlier about like the SEC going, oh, we deserve stuff, but not all of the SEC teams have schedules that I think that they're going to be able to just say, oh, we've done all of this. Like you have to put us in there, but I do think Florida has got a tough one, and I don't think that they're from coaching from coaching down. I just don't think that they've shown me, this Florida team has shown me that they are going to be able to get things done. Like it's just something's going to get wacky and they lose, I say wacky, but it's not even going to be wacky. You lose to LSU, you lose to Texas, you lose to A&M, you lose to Georgia, you lose to Ole Miss, you lose to Tennessee. Like that, I don't think, actually, I'll say they win Tennessee, but everything else, you lose to all your ranked, which is something I could just see Florida doing just because Florida's kind of been like that since Urban Meyer left. Like, it's just been a real up and down type of situation for the Swamp, unfortunately. So I don't think that they're overrated. I could see them being in, very, like, them looking like Oklahoma and Texas A&M at the end of the year, but I don't, I can't imagine them getting into the playoff. I would be hard pressed.
Yeah, so I have them in the overrated category because
That's not bad.
I had to make a decision here, and I have them there because I think that they're going to be very similar to what South Carolina was last year.
Oh, that's
And even though
pretty
South
good.
Carolina was kind of a playoff team, when I looked at South Carolina at the end of the year, I said, no, they're not a playoff team.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to do the same thing with Florida at the end of the year. The real trick I have, the real problem I've got with Florida is they could be 2-3 when they go to face Texas A&M. Right, like you could
Right.
lose LSU, Miami, Texas, boom, boom, boom,
Right.
and then that's it. It's kind of over
Yeah.
at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And because it's in the SEC, then they beat Georgia, they beat the rest of their teams, and then it's just like, well, we have to talk about them, but they'll be out of even my outside playoff. You know, like I don't even want. I think that they probably lose another game outside of those four, and maybe even one more. And so I could have put them on the outside looking in, but I'm like, you know what? I need a couple more teams for my overrated, and I feel much more confident that Florida's not going to be near the conversation for playoff at all than I do that even they'll be in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm sticking to the outside of the playoff because I'm gonna be aspirational in hopes that they get some things done, or they beat somebody that maybe they shouldn't, or maybe they should. Maybe they develop into something. I mean, can get it done, but he might be. I think my mood will change. Who knows? But I'm sticking with them. I'm sticking with them.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'm okay with that. I think if Lagway improves, then they might be really good. But
Yeah.
I just had to put them somewhere, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have any faith. I don't have any faith yet.
It's a good point, and they're just going to stack up losses, not even undeserved ones. That's just going to make it so. It's
Exactly.
Like,
That's
what
the
can
thing,
what can
man.
we even do? I know. We'll see.
Yeah,
All right.
that's the thing. All right, we move to number 14, the Michigan Fighting Wolverines.
I'm gonna go overrated. I don't think that if they were. I think that they should be like 20 or something. Like, I'm okay with you ranking them, I guess, but it's like you have a coaching situation that was. I think that they knew that Harbaugh was going to leave. They were going to have to replace, and they're going with they're sticking with their main, with the person that they put in after. But I just don't. It's year two. I don't know what's going to happen. They got all this allegation stuff. Now it was pretty small. In general, the consequences. I don't think we're going to be talking about this deep into the season. Like once suspensions are finished and whatever. Like I think it's going to be kind of done and over. But I think that's just shaky enough at the beginning of the season for a coach like their coach to just put themselves in not a good situation. Like they have to go to Oklahoma. I think they could definitely lose at Nebraska. I think that they could lose at either Wisconsin or USC. They'd probably beat Washington, Michigan State, Purdue. They probably go through, but at the end of their season is okay. Washington, Michigan State, Purdue, Northwestern, Maryland. I think they could get through that for sure, but they get bodied by Ohio State. And I think that they probably got two other losses. So they're 3 losses by the end of the year, at least, in my opinion. So I don't think. I feel like you felt with Florida with Michigan. Like, I just don't see it.
Yes. And I feel like you felt with Florida with Michigan.
Nice.
So I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know what? This is what I said. I said, look, they got Underwood, I think he's redshirt freshman at quarterback, right? But Michigan has had very good football teams with terrible offense. And even though you went down their schedule and looked at it, I don't think that they're not necessarily still equally as talented in the most part for everyone they face except for Ohio State. Maybe Oklahoma, but I could see them losing Oklahoma and Ohio State and having really good wins against Washington and USC, who maybe have a dalliance with being ranked. And the way that their schedule draws out, I feel like they're gonna kind of get in the conversation. I don't super disagree with you, very honestly, but I just think because of the schedule and the way that usually Michigan is built, that they'll figure it out to be part of the conversation kind of late until they get blown out by Ohio State or are close against them. They're going to be right there, and they're going to be on the other side of the South Carolina coin where they're also going to be kind of running their mouth, and it's going to be like, okay, you beat Oklahoma, but you got blown up by Ohio State, and you lost to Nebraska. I don't feel bad for you, but you're close. That's kind of where I'm at with them.
Yeah, no, I think it's, they're reasonable. And they got a schedule that's not, like, on paper, it doesn't look the worst, but it just feels like they're. I mean, and obviously only have last year to base on. They beat Ohio State last year, which was something, and so it's like
Right.
it's a thing that I can. Like I can see your point going there, but I feel like they got 3 losses in them, and then like just a random dumb fourth one. Like Michigan State just goes like, oh, you want to plant a flag? Now we're going to plant a flag. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Like I probably should have Florida right next to Michigan. I think they're going to be probably pretty close, but I just feel like I feel a little bit more confident that Michigan could just cobble together an Iowa-like performance and just make it work because they got so much talent and the schedule works out. I don't know why I feel that way.
No, I get it.
There we go. Now let's talk about the South Carolina of it all by talking about South Carolina at 13.
I'm going overrated. I think last year, hold on, I'm getting his name real quick. Their quarterback,
Sellers.
Sellers.
Lenore Sellers.
And he's still there, right, this year?
Yep, he sure
so
is.
That gives you a lot of stuff, and he's gotten a lot of hype. I feel like over the course of the offseason, people are excited about what he's got, what's going on. You got a guy like that, you could be good, but I just haven't. Maybe ever in my life have I lived in a world where I really thought South Carolina was going to do some stuff, and I think that the curse of that outweighs the potential. I think Sellers is fun, but I think there's scenarios. Their schedule also is, on paper is tough. You got to go to LSU, Oklahoma, and Alabama. You get at home, which is nice, but maybe they beat Oklahoma. If they beat Oklahoma, I'll say I was wrong. But it's like to go through the sort of thing. They could end the year with Clemson. It's just going to be some tough sledding. And again, I'm using previous bias here. I don't have it. I think Sellers is going to be fun, but not good enough. And I think South Carolina is going to continue the trend of like, we're not there. So I think 13 is too high. I think I would have put him at 22 or 24 or something. Like, it seems too high to me.
Great. We don't have to spend a lot of time talking about South Carolina because I feel exactly the same. So
Nice.
we can move right on to the Illini at 12.
I want them to be playoff bound. I want that. I want Illinois to do it, and I hope that their defense is just as fun and as awesome as it was last year. But I'm just not there yet, so I'm going to put them outside of the playoff. I want them to be playoff bound, but I think that they're going to look in.
Yeah, I have them also there. Their schedule is not super difficult in terms of the Big Ten. Luke Altmaier is good. The defense is always going to be good. Both lines are good. I don't think they have enough offensively in general, and I think that they probably just lose to the good teams on their schedule, and that probably puts them just out there because they'll have a couple of close games that they shouldn't have. But I think that 12 is maybe too high, but I don't have a problem with it. I
I
think if they end at 16, I'll be like, yeah, all right, fine.
Totally. And the potential losses that they could have, Indiana, Ohio State, and then maybe a random other one. I don't know. Yeah, I think that they could go in. Right. But yeah, I just think I hope the defense is just so fantastic that they just grind out Indiana and then grind out Ohio State to a close loss or something, and then people go, oh, hello, right. Illinois. I would love that, but I don't. Yeah, I'm with you. I just don't know if they can do it.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the Big 12 for our last Big 12 team of the list, Arizona State.
I'm pretty torn. I kind of want to go overrated because they're dealing with a similar problem to Boise State, where not quite as drastic, but very similar in that you lost a really quintessential piece. Also, Dillingham, I really think that it was smart that Arizona State got Dillingham. I think it's great. The people, I don't go to Tempe that much, but the Arizona State fans that I know down here in Tucson, and when I do go up there and I'm in this scenario where I'm talking football, there's a bunch of people that are really excited about him. So I think that's good, but I'd like I think this is his second year, right? No, third year, maybe?
Dillingham,
I think third. You lose a guy like Scadaboo, and who just produce all this way thing as you're sort of like getting your, year two, you're kind of getting into the swing of things. I think that's too big of a loss, and I think that they're just going to be scrambling. So when I started talking, I was in the outside of the playoff conversation, but now that I've said all that, I'm putting them as overrated.
Oh, wow. Okay. I have him in the playoff conversation. I think that Levitt is the best quarterback in the Big 12. I think all the other positions around that running back position has gotten better. I think that obviously that's a big thing to replace, but I don't think they're going to have a problem replacing it. I think they're probably the best team in the Big 12. Now, that all being said, they're absolutely going to lose games that they're not supposed to, but they're still going to come out ahead of the Big 12 and just get themselves in the playoff because of that. I just find it hard to think that they're going to fall so much that they don't still put themselves in a playoff position in the Big 12. Even if they're not as good as Kansas State or Iowa State, I think they're going to be right in there. They may not make the playoff, but I think they're absolutely going to go towards the last couple weeks in the season being right next to the opportunity of being in the playoff. You have a stronger opinion than I do on these running backs leaving.
Yeah, and I mean a running.
Yeah,
and I think a running back it's not as significant. I think it's fine, but it's just the types of dudes they were. I think there's other guys that you go to the NFL, you can get a replacement that may not produce as much, but allows your offense to do it. But when the nature of your offense was so tied into that identity, that's the thing that sketches me out about it.
I think that my position on those running backs is different than yours. I think the team's identity was what it was because they had such talented players there, but the team's identity didn't have to be. And so I think when they come back here, they're going to be what the team would have been and what they usually are, because they don't usually have a stud like that in that position, and they keep building around it that they can absorb those losses. However, of the teams that I think, like my Kansas State and my Iowa State are all based on things moving up, and Arizona State's based on them just not falling too far. They absolutely could be the one that falls out. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I don't sit here and feeling super confident, but I just feel like because of the way the Big 12 is and because of the rest of the talent they've got around, and like I say, I think their quarterback situation is really good. I think that's why they're going to do it.
I hope you're right. Like I said, I like Dillingham. I like what's going on up there. I hope to get to a game this year. But it's like when you have a coach. Also, the other thing sketching me out, you have a coach that is talking at press conferences about, hey, anybody at the school who can kick a football, come to me. Like the fact that you can't even button your kicker up, just makes me wonder. So, anyways.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. Let's go to the Miami Hurricanes in the ACC.
Miami, I think I can put in the... No, I can't. I want to put them in the playoff bound, but I think they suffer the worst of the similar problem to the one I was talking about with Arizona State and Boise State, where you lose Cam Ward, and that is a significant hole. And I don't know. I like the U being good. I want them to be good, but to lose Cam Ward and then go through the ACC is luckily the ACC is it's possible to win in the schedule that they have in the ACC that it is. They potentially could be the second best team, but I think like head to head SMU because of the experience just gets them. So I'm going to put them in my outside of the playoff situation. I think that they're fully in the conversation of like maybe they should be because their losses aren't that bad, but I think that they just don't get things done in the right way, and they end up just missing the playoff.
I mean, I don't think that's unfair. I think that they're just so talented. They are right now the number one returning S&P offense, or the preseason S&P leader in offense, even with Carson Beck there. Defense, they're the weakest of the top 10. They're like 49th in S&P, but I don't think that's going to be a problem in the ACC. They also have one of the weaker schedules of the top, based on S&P, one of the weaker schedules in the top 10. So I think that all that stuff probably is just what does it. I don't necessarily think that you're wrong, that that's going to be not a hard loss, but I think I think that the ceiling is almost like the Big 12, where it's just like you just got to get yourself in position to be in the playoff.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think they can do that fairly easily, so that's why it's there. But depending on how you feel about the playoff outside looking in a playoff, you could have Miami in that bump down because of what you said. But I just think they're going to be in the conversation for playing for the conference championship, and then that means that they're in the conversation for the playoff.
Yeah.
By default almost.
Totally.
All right, we move up. That was number 10. We move up to number 9, LSU.
Okay, I'm going to have this conversation a couple more times before we finish, I want to put them in the overrated category because I do think that they are overrated. However, I think that they're good enough, and I think that they're good enough to be able to get to the playoffs. So I'm thoroughly torn about it. I'm going to put them as playoff bound because it just makes sense to me to do that, but I don't believe in Brian Kelly. I don't know what I felt like. All of a sudden I was getting all this news and stuff about everybody's like LSU's the truth. They're going to do everything. Everybody's going to be bodied by LSU. I don't know where all this is coming from. Like they just haven't been watching. Like not to say that Jaden Daniels obviously wasn't great and some of the things that have happened, but LSU has not been like for sure LSU's getting into the playoff type of thing. So the fact that they're 9 is high to me. I want to say they're overrated. I think that they can just eke through their schedule and win enough that they'll make the playoff just because it's the SEC and they have this big schedule, yada, yada, yada. But I don't think he's going to go far. I think it's going to be just because it's supposed to happen that way.
Yeah, I feel almost exactly the same. I have him in my playoff tier as well. I think that Nussmeier is probably going to be the best quarterback in the country by numbers. Like just before he's just going to be one of those.
Yeah.
And so I think just by default they're always going to have enough talent. And Brian Kelly's always get just barely there.
Right.
So he'll absolutely get him there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fine. I mean I feel almost exactly the same, but they are in my playoff tier.
Yeah.
Number 8, Alabama Crimson Tide.
I'm scared for DeBoer. I think that he can. I think it's more likely that he has losses that the Alabama faithful hate than they're mad at him, even though he still makes it to the playoff. So he's kind of dealing with two beasts of burden here, I think. But I do think I like him a lot as a coach. There was a lot of stuff that's happening. Ryan Williams is right. Ryan Williams, he's their wide receiver. Is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Right, is just a freakish talent. Like, if Travis Hunter doesn't exist, we're talking about Ryan Williams a bunch. If we're not talking about Genty and all the other guys, right? Like, he's just a freakish talent. So fun to watch. I want DeBoer to keep going. I want this Alabama thing to keep going, but, like, going to Georgia is tough for sure. But it's not. But if you lose to Georgia, it's fine because that's not going to deter you from getting in the playoff. But like the Alabama faith will be pissed off about it, And then you got Tennessee, South Carolina, Oklahoma for your other ranks, which is I think doable for sure for DeBoer for this Alabama team. So I'm fully in their playoff bound. I think that they'll have some silliness, some unsuspecting silliness. And if they don't have any silliness and he gets locked in like he was at Washington, they're potentially the third best team in the nation. I don't know if he's capable of doing that. I hope so. But regardless, I think playoff bound for sure with some silliness.
Alabama was the closest to being first out of my national championship tier. They're in my playoff tier. But I almost talked myself into them. I almost did.
I get you.
I think Ty Simpson is electric, and it gives them the thing on offense that they just didn't have last year. Their defensive line and cornerback rooms are some of the best in the country, and I think DeBoer is really good. And I think if they're not a top 5 team this year, then DeBoer isn't as good as I think they are. But if he is as good as I think they are, then they're going to be really pushing the top of the SEC. So I got him a playoff, and I almost put him ahead of Georgia, but I didn't.
That's legit. That is legit.
So then that's an interesting position for us to talk about. Number 7, Oregon.
Okay, so they are dealing with a quarterback problem. I don't think a quarterback problem that's as big as what like Miami's dealing with, or like Gabriel was a good quarterback. That's the type of guy that if you have a really good team put together, that's the type of guy you want to have in your backfield. He didn't bowl things over in the way that I think a lot of people kind of expected him to, but he was perfect. I like Dan Lanning. I like what he's got Oregon doing. I like the vibe up there. Feels like we're really pushing the thing. We came into the Big Ten and we came to bang with the best of them. They definitely go playoff bound, obviously. But I think for me, they just because of the slight unknowns, like quarterback wise, and not to say they won't have that buttoned up, but to go to Penn State, like if you lose to Penn State, does it matter for the playoff? No. If Penn State's still number 2 by that point, doesn't really matter. You go, you lose them away at the number 2 team, like you'll make the playoff. It'll be fine. The rest of their schedule is pretty okay. Like it's not, if by their standards, going to be okay. But I think that they definitely are playoff bound. I think it's going to be totally fine. But I do wonder if they have it in them to push past and get themselves in the national championship conversation. And so they're my Alabama. Like they're like how you felt about Alabama. They're like, I want to put them in the national championship contenders. They're right there. I think in a couple weeks I'll say, oh, I was being an idiot. But right now, I think they're just right there almost.
Yeah, I'm almost in 100% agreement. The things that may kept me from quite flipping them over is that I'm not sure about Dante Moore. And I think when I looked at the schedule, I thought, man, it's going to be tricky. A home game, Minnesota late home game, USC late, Washington might be decent. Iowa's going to be pretty good. Maybe Wisconsin gets their shit together. Is it great? No, but Penn State, Indiana. Like I was just like, that schedule is just enough that if Dante Moore does not have his shit together, then they lose twice to somebody they're not supposed to.
Right.
But I think that they will have their shit together, but I just couldn't feel quite confident enough there. So yeah, I'm in exact agreement with you.
Nice.
Let's talk about Notre Dame at number 6.
Notre Dame, I'm putting in national championship contenders. There's a lot of basically 99% of the reason is Marcus Freeman. To be at Notre Dame University and have gotten such a vote of confidence. I've said this every year since he's been there. I'm going to continue to say it. But to get a vote of confidence like he did, to start his career and just say, hey, you were with us this whole time. Brian Kelly's gone. We need you to lead the ship. To have that confidence and to go to work every day at Notre Dame University has got to be so nice. It's about to be very comforting. And so I think he has that. And then also he walked into the playoff last year with just a team in shambles, and he kept on keeping on. So I've been bought in. For the first time in my life, I'm a legitimate Notre Dame fan. I want to see them win things. I want to see him win things. I think he can do it. I think he's the way. I kind of don't even care about the team because that's how confident I am in him. I think he can. Maybe does he win the national championship? Does he get beat out just because of talent or something? Maybe. But I think he'll be around. Notre Dame is going to be around.
Notre Dame was the most difficult decision for me. They are also in my national championship tier because a lot of what you said, I think Jeremiah Love at running back is just so good. They've got a redshirt freshman that's going to be their starting quarterback, and that's what made me like, but I don't think that's going to keep them necessarily from making it to the semifinals, right?
Right.
So they're kind of my last in the national championship tier, but I think they're going to be very, very good.
Yeah, totally.
Georgia Bulldogs at 5.
I think Kirby Smart is the best coach of football best coach of college football that currently exists. I believe that in my heart and soul, and I think he's going to be dangerous. And I think him and the team are salty about just not winning as they want to. I think he wants to be Saban incarnate. I think they want to get things done. I think they housed Tennessee. I think they beat Alabama. Maybe it's close, but honestly, they probably beat the pants off Alabama. I think they house Ole Miss. They do the same thing to Florida, and I even think that they beat Texas. If at this point, I think that they're underrated. I think that they should be higher. Now, I'm sure that there's a whole conversation around the nature of the team that we can get into, but I really just think Kirby Smart's going to get things done. I'm full coach on this one as well. I think he's going to get done. I think he very likely will be in the national championship. I want to see it happen just because I guess I don't necessarily want to, but I think it's going to. I think Kirby Smart's great. I think they are definitely in the national championship conversation.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia is in my national championship tier as well. I am a little concerned about Gunnar Stockton at quarterback. I just don't know what they're going to get there. But again, like some of these other teams, that quarterback situation isn't going to matter. The fact that they have some of the best players at all the other positions, and they'll be stout on defense, and they'll be well coached, and he's talented enough to do it. Matter of fact, my notes said Georgia, Stockton quarterback, otherwise loaded, and staff. I love their staff. Otherwise, they're loaded. Stockton shouldn't drag them down. But I feel comfortable that I won't feel bad. I'll feel a little confident in my chest that if Alabama and Georgia flip, I won't be shocked.
Okay, that's good.
Shocked.
No, that's right? Good. That's a good way to say it. I wouldn't necessarily be either. But I would be a little bit shocked. I think Georgia is probably. I think just because time served, all that kind of stuff. But
sure,
but I agree. And the only reason I don't doubt Stockton. If Stetson Bennett never existed, I'd be with you. But the fact that Kirby Smart won a national championship with a guy like Stetson Bennett, that makes me feel like, man, magic could potentially happen in Georgia all the time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't think that that's an eliminator by any means, but I just think that Alabama is close to Georgia, and Alabama's quarterback situation might be better. Yeah. That's really it. That's really where I'm at with it. But yeah, I'm functionally in agreement with you.
Yeah, nice.
All right, number 4, the Clemson Tigers. This is one I'm going to start.
Okay, please.
Because this one is the one I really had the hardest time with, because I hate the Clemson Tigers. I hate them. I hate Dabo. I hate all the other hates that I have. I was able to suck up for this thing. But Clemson was really difficult. The problem is I couldn't take them out of my national championship tier because they have like a top 3 quarterback in the country. They've been building talent. He finally started portaling a little bit while still doing great homegrown stuff. The best team in the ACC. He's got to beat one of these other teams once to kind of get into the semifinal. I think he can do that just fine. I hate it, but Klubnik, I think I'm just kind of on Klubnik, quite frankly.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I don't like Dabo. I will say I do have there's like a part of me. I don't know where it exists in my body and mind and soul, but somewhere in my body, and there's kind of like a kinship I have for Dabo. I really like those early Clemson teams when they were trying to fight against Alabama, and the fact that he's trying to be old school, even though I hate the way that he does it and talks about it and generally is as a human being, I do respect that he's trying to like keep things as old school. If we were talking about, money for players and all that kind of stuff, I'd be very against him. But from a can he win a championship vibes, I think that he's built a situation where he can be. He doesn't have to deal with an incredibly tough ACC schedule. So like you're saying, he could very easily just cruise into a semifinal situation. That's all possible. And then Klubnik, Klubnik is, he seems like the guy. Definitely I'd have to say he's got to be the best quarterback in the ACC. And so they have all the weapons that Dabo likes to have. And this is the type of season that he could get things done. So I got to put him in the national championship. I don't think they're going to end up being in the national championship. I think they probably get beat semifinals or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to. They're going to be around for sure.
How dare you? Carson Beck is in the ACC now. How dare you just automatically put Klubnik as the best quarterback in the ACC?
The trash can is so far away from me, I can't throw up in it. Like, get out of here. Get out of here.
Number 3, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Look, I'm full of all of these ones. I'm real coach heavy, I think. But Ryan Day proved it to me last year. He proved it to everybody. It's not just some Urban Meyer freak or I got things done it. Like he is a legitimate call. He's got legitimate stuff going on. They have some stuff to replace, but they're going to. They have all the money and all of the things to be able to do it. I expect the horseshoe to be rocking all year. I don't see anybody on their schedule that they even really need to worry about. I think they're so pissed off about Michigan that they're probably going to put 100 points up on Michigan or something crazy. I don't think Penn State's got enough to choose to do it, which we can elaborate on more in a second. But yeah, I mean, I think he's semifinal bound for sure. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Ohio State, Georgia at the end of things.
I have Ohio State only in my playoff tier.
Really?
I did not put them in the national championship tier, and this is why. Even though they have the two best players in the country, Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, they got a redshirt freshman at quarterback. And the reason that this matters to me is that when Ohio State wasn't at their best last year before they went on the run, a bad quarterback play was part of it. Right?
Yeah, that's true. They did have that. They had some shaky stuff in the middle of the season for sure.
Right, and what you do have in the Big Ten, what you're going to have to worry about is Penn State's defense is really good, and Oregon's defense is going to be really good, and Iowa's defense is probably still going to be really good, and Illinois' defense is going to be really good. Michigan's defense is probably going to be really good. I think that I really am I think Notre Dame can make it through because of the way that the team is built, but also who they play. Their schedule's just a little softer.
Yeah.
I just don't know that Ohio State's going to... I think that's going to be really difficult with the expectation level that it's supposed to be. I just... Even though sometimes the playbook's going to be throw to the best player in the country, Jeremiah Smith, and close your eyes, but I just feel like something's going to get them. And they're not going to be able to recover it from it like they could recover last year.
Yeah, and their schedule is not that fantastic. So if they get God at some point, things become sketchy.
Yeah, they just could. I don't know where it is, but the big game and Penn State and Illini. And they start with Texas. What happens if they get blown out the blocks early? I just don't. I don't know.
That's a good point.
Now to a very interesting team. I think the most interesting team to talk about at this stage is Penn State at number 2.
This one's pretty easy for me. I don't believe in James Franklin. I don't think he can do it. He's not shown he's been able to do it. He's going to lose. He's going to lose to Ohio State. He could lose to. I could see him getting got by Indiana at home just because he's going to lose to Oregon. I just don't. There's been nothing in his tenure that has made me think that he's anything other than just being playoff bound. I have no possible thought that they could make it to a national championship. If they make it to the semifinals, I'll be shocked. I do not. I got them playoff bound, and that is it. 2 is so high. I want to put them overrated, but 2 just because they're 2. But I don't get it.
Yeah, Aller's good. Running back crew's good. Defense will be strong. They don't have anything amazing at wide receiver, and they always have to still figure out the fact that they haven't beaten a top 5 team functionally since he's been there. Franklin's been there. So yeah, I've got them in the playoff tier, which makes them overrated, just like you said. Unlike the number 1 team in the country, the Texas Longhorns.
I do think that they're national championship worthy. I like Sark. I like what he's got going on. I like what's happening in Texas. I think the Arch Manning hype is too much in the few the few plays that he had over the course of the last season. It was a lot of running and not really a ton of throwing. So I don't really know what we have. Obviously, he's got the uncles. He's got about as great a quarterback, room as you could want to have as a quarterback behind you. That's going to pay dividends, so I think that they're good. I think that they are right, but I don't expect them to stay at 1 all year. Their schedule is not the most. Oh, let me see before I finish that sentence. It's not the most grueling from an SEC standpoint. Like we've already talked about a bunch of teams that have got to deal with worse. So I think that they can beat Ohio State to start things. I think they beat Florida and Oklahoma, but I think Georgia gets them, and I don't. Maybe they don't lose. They don't win the SEC championship or something. I think they're going to make it to the playoff. I think it'll be fine. But I don't know if I put them in my national championship contenders, like my national championship tier. I think they deserve to be there. I'm not totally bought in, but I get it.
Yeah. No, I'm exactly the same. I think that Arch Manning doesn't have to be what the hype is for them to be the fourth best team in the country. They're strong everywhere. Their schedule is tough, but not as tough as it could be. Obviously, that early Ohio State game is going to be interesting, but it won't affect their ability to play and win a national championship, no matter what happens there. It's going to be when they travel to Georgia. It's going to be the Texas A&M game. The rest of they should be a much better team than everybody else on their schedule. So fine. I think it's fine. I think it's hard to think of a world where they're not playing in the semifinal. It's hard to be in that position, just considering where they are. But what if Arch Manning is like that's the problem? Is even Arch Manning doesn't live up to the hype. All he has to do is Quinn Ewers for them to get to the semifinal.
That's true.
Like,
yeah,
all right,
yeah, which makes
whatever,
it
fine.
Totally, and that's what makes me want to put them in the national championship because they've got so many other things, and I do really think Sark is putting things together. I think he's what you want him to be as a Texas fan at this point. I think you're going to be scared about some things, but I think that they're good enough to bang with the big boys. I hope Arch Manning is as transcendent as people want him to be because that would just be fun for college football, but I don't know if we're there yet, but I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I don't know if we're there. I'm excited to see it too. Of quick note, the teams outside of the top 25 in the G5 playoff spot tier, I had Tulane, Memphis, and JMU. Tulane is gonna be like 45-ish, I think, in quality of team. They're gonna be, rumbly, and they might be able to punch somebody in the nose. Memphis is right behind them. James Madison is right behind them, I think.
Yeah, no, those are. I think Tulane is kind of my G5 truth at this point. It's hard for me to think that somebody else can get things done. I would love to see more of it, but I think that's going to have to build. I'm always aspirational on the G5s. I want them to be better, maybe even more so than they deserve. But I think Tulane kind of sits there. I really hope James Madison is finally, really able to open up and do the things that I've been watching them do. Obviously, a lot of that was with Signetti, but hopefully they keep the momentum going and can get some things done. But yeah, I agree with you. Tulane is kind of.
It's going to be. Yeah, I mean, it's the American. If it's not Boise State, it's going to be whatever team comes out of the American, because the American has the best rest of the G5. Yeah. So that's what you got. Okay. So Brian had to leave. We had fun scheduling, fun trying to get this in last minute. So I'm going to just quickly go over some of the marquee games of Week 0 and Week 1. With the Labor Day weekend and everything, we might not be able to get together before that, but I just wanted to make some note of some games to watch for on the early season. We start with Farmageddon, Iowa State at Kansas State, but played in Ireland. Kansas State's a 3-point favorite. That's going to be a super interesting early game, even though it may not be very good. But it's a great marquee kickoff game overseas. That's fun. We have Boise State traveling to South Florida. Boise State's a 6-point favorite. Just a good game to see what Boise State is. Are they back? Are they going to be able to put it together like I think they are? We'll see. We have Auburn at Baylor. Auburn's only a 2.5-point favorite. Auburn might be good. Baylor might be good. That's the time to find out. It's a super interesting game on Friday the 29th. Also on Friday, Georgia Tech at Colorado. I don't think Colorado, who's a 4-point underdog, is going to be necessarily good, but I think Georgia Tech might be, and we'll get to see how gamey they are Friday at 7 p.m. These are all Central Time, God's time. Tennessee travels to Syracuse. Is Tennessee good? They should beat Syracuse handily. They're a 13.5-point favorite. Good chance for them to showcase. Texas, Ohio State. Ohio State's a 2.5-point favorite at home. That's on Fox Saturday 8:30. Saturday 8 the 30th at 11 a.m. I don't need to sell you that game at all. That's you know what you got to do. Alabama travels to Florida State. Alabama's a 13.5-point favorite. If they're what I think they are, they win that game going away. Win that game running away. No questions asked about that. UTSA travels to Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a 22.5-point favorite. They should blow them out, but I think UTSA is going to be fairly decent, so I hope that they don't blow them out. LSU Clemson, another early, just let's see how they are. Both of these teams will survive whatever happens here, but that would be a good calling card game, especially for Clemson in the ACC to say, yeah, we got an SEC win against one of your top teams. That'll be a good resume game, which a lot of these early games are just good resume games. Utah UCLA is of note. Utah's a 6.5-point favorite. We're a Utah podcast when it all comes down to it. Hopefully they're good enough to beat UCLA. Brian will be there at the game. That's Saturday at 10 p.m. And then your Sunday schedule is actually great. Virginia Tech at South Carolina. South Carolina is a 7.5-point favorite. Virginia Tech could beat them. Notre Dame at Miami. Notre Dame is a 2.5-point favorite. It's 6:30 on Sunday night. Awesome. Monday on the holiday, TCU at North Carolina. TCU is a 3.5-point favorite. Bill Belichick's coaching debut in college. Amazing. So anyway, thanks guys for listening. This is Power Option Podcast. We will be back likely after week 1, after the holiday, to kind of cover what happened and go right into week 2. Thanks, everybody.